I gave my life to Jesus when I was 15 years old, sitting on the bathroom floor after attempting to take my own life. It's not a secret that right now there are a lot of people who are starting to explore their faith, who are giving their life to Jesus, and I am feeling a deep conviction to share my story as someone who gave their life to Christ at 15, and I want to share what God has been doing and what my walk has been like since then. I personally grew up with severe childhood trauma. Growing up, life looked like abuse, neglect, and living through things no child should ever have to live through. And that ultimately was kind of what led to my attempt. Now I was exposed to God and to Jesus at different points of my life, so I ultimately knew who he was, but I didn't, up until this point, want a relationship with him. But I got to the point where I knew I couldn't live any longer without his intervention, and nor did I want to. So I figured out how to get myself to church. I got plugged in to youth groups at the time and really dedicated myself to learning more about God and Jesus and to just live for him however he called me to. And I was still living at home. I was still in the trenches and living through the abuse still. And God brought people into my life who continuously spoke life into me. I had people come into my life who treated me like that I was their own and loved me as if I was one of their own. God provided the people in my life that I needed when I needed them, which ultimately just strengthened my faith. Answered prayer by answered prayer. I eventually grew up and got out of that situation and still was continuing my faith and my walk with Jesus. I got married at age 18, and when our life started together as a couple, my mental health increasingly declined. I'm talking severe depression, panic attacks, suicidal ideation still. Like, I was struggling. It took me a long time to get the help that I needed and to start seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist. I eventually did, but it took me a while. I thought I could handle it on my own, and I just couldn't. I eventually got pregnant and had my daughter, and my mental health continued to decline. The therapist that I was seeing at the time wasn't a trauma therapist, and I eventually started feeling more and more like I needed to see someone with a trauma-informed lens who could help me work through the trauma that I had experienced. So I eventually made that shift, and that was the best decision that I had made. There, I really did see God start to really meticulously work in my healing journey, and he's still doing it. I still see my therapist 5.5 years later, and seeing the progress and seeing God peel back layer by layer and help me through this process has been amazing and extremely difficult. Healing is not linear. Healing hurts. Healing is hard. And sometimes you don't always see the progress, but it's there, my sweet friend. It is there. I was about 3. I had to go to a residential treatment facility because my depression and my suicidal ideation and everything got really, really bad. And it was at a point where I needed a higher level of care. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. That experience wasn't fun. It wasn't easy. For the most part, it wasn't a great experience. But there was stuff that happened that was a turning point for my healing. So when I came back, it pushed my healing journey further than I would have been able to by myself. While I was there, I had a few people in my corner that were advocates for me when I couldn't be an advocate for myself, who showed me love and compassion that I didn't understand at the time. That even though I didn't want to be there or open up or talk about anything, they were a steady presence that would sit next to me when I was not feeling great, who would say, "I know," and just sat there with me. And that was one of the things that I will always carry with me. And Jesus grew my dependence for him in those moments as well, where I was in complete reliance on him to get me through that experience, but then also to bring me home and for me to continue that healing process. I say all of this in the mental health side of things because the truth of the matter is, even with Jesus, we still struggle. We still have hard times. We still are human. And we're not immune to the struggle of life. And we start seeing God's presence in every little detail. Maybe not right away. For me, it's definitely not been right away. But God has revealed it piece by piece for me. An example of that would be a couple of years ago, God placed on my heart that he wanted me to build a ministry, a mental health ministry that focuses on how to teach churches to love on those who are hurting in a more radical way. How to essentially walk with people who struggle with their mental health. And I felt so unqualified to do that. And now here we are a couple years later, and we are waiting for our nonprofit status, and we're doing just that. Someone who felt so unqualified, but whose mission in this world was to help other people feel less alone, and for also to teach people how to help other people feel less alone. There are many points in my life that would have been easy to be mad at God, to be mad at the circumstances, and for most people to say that that's justified for the things that I've been through. I've always kept my eyes on God, though. I always know and knew that he was going to get me through it, but that there was going to be a purpose for it. Not that that makes life any easier, but for me, that was a glimmer of hope. That was a statement of hope for me, to be at least I can be of help to someone else. I don't have it all together. I don't have all of the answers. I wrestle with God on a daily basis. And that wrestling, the questions I'm able to ask God, is what grows my faith every day. If you're new to the faith or newly exploring your faith, welcome. And know that you're not alone. In the struggles and the questions and the wrestling with the trying to understand, you're not alone. Keep going. Reach out, ask for help if you need to. Ask the questions. Find your people. And God will bring the people that you need when you need it.